Battlefield. In the past years, the game has come under a lot of scrutiny from fans, mostly due to glitchy and buggy launches, most prominent in Battlefield 4, and quite recently, Battlefield 5 being an inaccurate representation of World War II according to a lot of fans and onlookers. The pressure from both of these failures left Battlefield 6, now known as Battlefield 2042, under a lot of pressure to produce an acceptable finished product. And at a few points, the project was looking hopeful. Unfortunately, throughout development, there was a greater power preventing 2042 from becoming what developers and fans wanted, and quite frankly, held the game back. The greater power influence in this led the game through many stages, at one point having it being a full-ball battle royale which can be seen in remnants of today's game build. This created hell within the studio and a bad finished product, forever being a huge stain on the face of the franchise. To start the story off, we begin at the end of the Battlefield 5 development. The notable and important event here will be the 19 developers leaving, some of them working on the Frostbite engine Battlefield runs on. Seemingly from reports, a lot of these developers walked out due to lack of creative freedom under EA. EA, seemingly being an overbearing publisher, only wanted proven formulas to be used, such as copying the most popular thing at the minute, instead of allowing developers to innovate as they have done for years. This can be seen at the end of Battlefield 5 with the addition of Firestorm, but this can be seen much clearer in what I'm about to tell you about Battlefield 2042. Mid to late 2019, development for Battlefield 6, or now we know it as Battlefield 2042, started. Due to EA's painful decision to copy whatever's popular at the time, which happened to be Fortnite and Black Ops 4, the game started as a Battle Royale. Remnants of the Battle Royale formula can be seen today, mostly through Quick Switch, a system clearly meant to optimise inventory management, vehicle call-ins which were actually also utilised in the Battlefield 5 Battle Royale mode, and the outrageously large maps. During this time, upgrades on the Frostbite engine were occurring due to its outdated and potentially unoptimised nature with the bigger Battlefield maps. Upgrades on the engine were said to only take 6 months, which is acceptable because it would be finished before the game left post-processing. Unfortunately, due to a handful of senior developers leaving, especially the ones that worked on the Frostbite engine, issues would only occur and turn the development time from 6 months to 18 months, which heavily impacted the development of the game, because making modern games in an outdated engine is a feat. It was reported from a DICE employee that such simple things such as copying and moving files took minutes. Unfortunately, this was only the start of the developmental issues during this time, as Apex Legends shows EA how effective having operators is and selling operator related skins is in optimising and making microtransactions friendlier and negating potential loot box backlash. Because of this little situation, the soldiers that were in development, as seen from older concept art, were turned into operators, where a specific character has abilities rather than a class. This microtransaction method can actually also be seen in Call of Duty Warzone, but to a lesser extent, as operators have no bearing over the character's ability. Ultimately, this switch on such short term proved really painful for the game, because operators seem unfinished in a way. They don't seem like actual humans. They don't seem as optimised as they could be, such as in ways like Apex Legends does it. Now, the question is, why did EA push for a Battle Royale on Battlefield? Well, currently it seems Battle Royale allows for a very long live service plan that appeals to a huge audience. This means less long-term effort and more long-term rewards, which every game developer wants. We have never seen games with this wide of an appeal last so long in the live service game lifecycle. Fortnite is currently 4 years old and is well on track to have a successful 5th year, and Apex Legends managed to peak back in Season 9, showing the games can still increase in player base over time. But EA made a large mistake. Around the same time they pushed for Battlefield to become a Battle Royale, the Battle Royale market became a lot more inflated, with Warzone's release, Fortnite Chapter 2 and Fortnite Mobile bringing a lot of people back to the Battle Royale scene. The exact audience they wanted to capitalise on had now gone to other games. And at this point it obviously seemed that trying to push into this genre that had already had a dedicated fanbase to each game would be a bad idea, which led EA to do a 180 in mid-2020. The game became Battlefield again. Nearly a year before when it was going to release, it had a complete genre flip. This was extremely short notice, but arguably a good decision, as if Battlefield came out as a generic Battle Royale that you had to pay $40 for, would you really play it? Unfortunately, they'd chosen quite possibly the worst time to make the switch, as a little thing called work from home emerged as a norm due to a little exterior situation. This huge shift, along with work from home with 1 year left to finish the game, was a scary and stressful step for the developers to take. to the point where some DICE developers were found venting to COD developers who leaked the struggle online, giving the internet the first idea to the mess Battlefield was currently in. You can tell that the shift back to Battlefield happened mid-2020, as a lot of the concept art for the Battlefield material me and you know, such as maps, portal and operators, was drawn by people hired early 2020, therefore proving the short notice nature. Relatively early during the Battlefield 2042 development, the internet got some news which first tipped us off to the existence of the game. During an earnings call, the EA CEO Andrew Wilson stated that Battlefield 2042 was way ahead of schedule and they're going to reveal the game in spring, which later turned out to be at E3 2021. The CEO did mention a few key things which seemed to have been scrapped early. First of all, he says the new Battlefield takes destruction to another level, which is clearly wrong because the game displays significantly less destruction than previous titles. And then he mentions how they're way ahead of the prior product cycles, which is clearly wrong also considering the Frostbite engine still wasn't finished despite it being past the predicted 6-month development target. The game slowly started leaking with people catching wind of its future setting and large armies and maps. And ironically enough, a few of the early leaks stated that it was going to be a Battle Royale game or have a Battle Royale mode within it. Unfortunately, it wasn't all fun back at DICE headquarters. Only a month after saying the game was ahead of schedule, DICE had to bring in additional and outsourced help to finish the Frostbite engine, ready for playtests to run in August. Clearly a negative side effect of a lot of the senior developers leaving at the end of the Battlefield 5 lifecycle. Around the time this was happening, the original gameplay trailer was filmed in-engine and with gameplay, and reportedly had to be played and edited specifically to hide the bugs and issues within the build, which is not a good sign. Now we're at the point just before E3, getting ready to reveal the trailer along with the release date, which happens to be in less than 6 months. Imagine the anxiety within the studio, along with the pressure from EA to hit targets for the game. It's a shameful way to run a company, and this is huge pressure on employees. They should have done what Halo did and swallowed their pride, delayed the game for a year and shipped a successful product instead of dropping a game that would flop. The Glassdoor reviews around this time reflect the mentioned issues. Here's an employee saying how clunky the engine is, another one complaining about EA management being bad, another saying EA is bad once again, also adding, don't make games based on trailers, make trailers based on games. Another complaining point on another review was about EA management and the crippling creativity suppression from it. You get the idea. This led to the E3 reveal being met with some skepticism, but overall a happy fanbase. Only the developers knew the real issues. After this point, we didn't hear too much Battlefield news until the closed alpha playtests, where people were invited but not allowed to share gameplay. People did ultimately share gameplay, but I think due to some sneaky watermark placement, they didn't last long. Not many complaints about the game emerged from this playtest because at the end of the day, what more can you expect from a closed alpha playtest? And all the feedback went straight to DICE anyway. Between this alpha playtest and the open beta playtest which will be taking place in October, the Frostbite engine seemed to have been finished and polished off. Nearly a year after the original aimed end date, which ended up being one of the main reasons the game was thought to have been ridden with issues. Also, during this time, massive UI bugs were still prominent, and the UI bugs were pointed out by a lot of DICE developers to be holding the game back. As pressure at DICE HQ increased, they were preparing to release the beta version of Battlefield to come in October. This beta version was opened up to all players on October 8th, and was criticised for its constant glitches and its unoptimised nature. Due to this, a community leader EA actually came out and said the game build is a few months old, and the actual build which is currently being worked on has all these issues fixed, which is great. But fans looked in the files and found this build was created in late September, not months old. And the cherry on top, there was a leaker claiming to be a DICE employee that also claimed the build was not old either. Videos started pouring out bashing Battlefield, and the hope for the full release had really gone down the drain, as fans realistically saw this game had 1 month to get everything together, or it's going to be a mess, which probably wasn't going to happen. 1 month after the beta, the actual game launched on November the 19th. Luckily, DICE had fixed a lot of the bugs and the fundamental issues in the game is what I'd love to say. Unfortunately, with all the content opened up for everyone to play, criticism quickly rolled in. A few major issues outlined were the tragic balancing, no options for PC players to play 64-player matches, leading to many players being unable to play due to lag, soulless operators ruining the game with their cringe voice lines, weapon bloom taking a lot of skill from gunplay, and optimization being very poor, making it only playable for people with semi-high-end computers. And the main game, All Out Warfare, only had 2 modes, leaving out anything like Team Deathmatch or a small map-based mode like Rush. The game did have Hazard Zone, but Hazard Zone was not enjoyed by a lot of people, mostly because in a 4-player co-op mode, Battlefield Battlefield 2042 devs didn't think of adding a voice chat option. The game did have the portal mode, but the developers shouldn't rely on the community to make their game good. They should release it good. Plus, you couldn't earn XP in Portal. Due to this, Battlefield 2042 quickly became the 9th worst rated game on Steam, with only 33% of reviews being positive. Along with this, many videos mocking the game's issues were released on TikTok and YouTube, gaining a reputation for the game and making it harder for new players to justify a purchase. Quickly, the game dropped players, losing about 5,000 players a week. Even on a free weekend, it still managed to maintain a player loss. Patches were done, 64 player was added to PC, but in a lot of people's eyes, the game's fate was already set in stone. The developers did add Rush as a limited time mode, but as I was making this video, they made the genius decision to remove it, likely pushing a lot more fans away. During this time, Battlefield 5 actually had a little bit of a comeback at one point and had more people playing it at once than people were playing Battlefield 2042. And also, the community had one more thing to complain about when they added some cheesy Christmas skins which weren't very Battlefield-y according to many people. This kind of just enraged people more, made more news articles about the game, and once again brought a lot more hate to the game. And this leaves us at today, where the game's not really receiving any content updates until March, where the Battle Pass is going to be released and Season 1 with a new map is also going to be released. Hopefully that brings some players back, but I honestly think it's a bit far gone at the minute to have a full comeback. After all, everybody knows, a delayed game is eventually good, a bad game is bad forever. This is a story of greed from EA, and how laziness and lack of innovation can kill a franchise. After all, the domino effect from EA suppressing creativity in Battlefield 5 ultimately led to the engine issues in 2042, therefore its buggy and broken state and negative reviews. But for a lot of people, it's just the fundamentals of the game that are broken, especially the operators and larger maps, so I struggle to see a resurgence of this game in a stable place in the future. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a subscribe, because I really took a lot of time making this, and I'm going to try to make a lot more content like this. This video was partly inspired by Tom Henderson's video, and also some Glassdoor reviews, and also Reddit posts I saw, so thank you to them. Also, Tom Henderson does have probably the most detailed development cycle, which I did take a lot of inspiration from, so thank you very much for that. Remember, drop a subscribe, and I'll see you soon.